I got a front row seat to the MLS All-Star Week. Red carpet events, community awards, panel discussion, former player interviews, being on the sidelines in the media well for the skills challenge and the All-Star Game. Well, it was for work. I was there shooting content for a client. But as a soccer fan, I had to take this opportunity to make a video about the experience. But there's one big issue. I hate the MLS. I normally refer to it as MLS with a big dollar sign as the S, because I don't think they care about the soccer, they just care about the money side of it. So the big question is, after my experience at the All-Star Game, does it change my opinion of the MLS at all? But first, to truly understand, we have to discuss why I dislike the MLS in the first place. While the MLS has done a lot to kind of change the face of soccer here in the United States, there are some major issues with how it's run with a top-down structure. Each club is a franchise under the MLS's tyrannical leadership, so they can do whatever they want, like putting the games behind a paywall with Apple TV. Well, the structure of the MLS is very similar to how all the other major sports leagues in the United States works. There's one major problem. It's not just a US sport. It's a lot more global, so it needs to be more worldly and adaptive compared to other major league sports. But one of the most glaring differences is the lower levels. If you can't tell, I'm a massive lower level soccer fan. Without promotion relegation or a healthier feeder program or a minor leagues, clubs in the USL, NPSL, and NISA are often left on their own, with potential fans always being plucked away from the glittery top leagues of the United States. But to be honest though, it really boils down to an issue with the American mindset. We always want to see the best, and I discovered this firsthand when I used to live in Cincinnati. People didn't care about the club when they were USL, they only wanted to see them if they were MLS. And this is why the Messi effect works so well, because it's the best player in the world here playing in the United States, so everyone jumps on the Messi craze. Is he the greatest in the world? Sure, but I don't watch soccer to watch the best. I watch it for the love of the game. And I think it's in its purest form at the grassroots level, where it's not all about making money, and it's actually about the team and the community building. And probably the biggest, most recent reason why I hate the MLS is that they started pulling their clubs out of the historic US Open Cup and began starting their own Leagues Cup. Basically, it's just a huge money ploy so they can make all the money in the Leagues Cup, and they don't want their teams to be embarrassed by losing to USL sides in the Open Cup. It's a blatant money grab, and it's pretty ridiculous. But I'll stop myself from ranting now, because we've got a stadium to go to and some soccer to take in. But a quick shameless self-promotion plug: if you enjoy soccer and going to different sporting events, then be sure to give this video a thumbs up and follow the channel here. And if you're a big lower level soccer fan, maybe you should cop one of these sick hats I designed. The link's down in the description. Enough talk, let's get on to it. So going down to Columbus was a little bit of a homecoming for me since I'm originally from the state of Ohio, but thanks to Delta, the casual 13 hours in a hot car was not desirable. Not being an MLS fan, I'm not really a Crew fan, but I have backed the Crew on their last MLS Cup and do have a pretty slick Columbus Crew jersey. That being said, I also have a FC Cincinnati jersey since I was a season ticket holder their inaugural season in 2016 before they sold their soul to the MLS Devil. But I am a pretty big fan of some of the stuff the Crew have done recently, especially with their new stadium, and I'm a big fan of Darlington Nagbe, have been of his ever since his time with the Portland Timbers when he was with Caleb Porter. After all, they were both at Akron University at the same time. Ohio represent, baby. But the events were kicked off with the MLS Hometown Heroes Showcase, which highlighted a lot of local nonprofits across Columbus with a huge ceremony, and this was extremely well done. It was actually really inspiring to hear about these individuals doing such great work in their local communities and putting their money where their mouth is. The MLS donated $15,000 to each one of these nonprofits. And to add to that, the MLS Charities actually does do quite a bit of good work in local communities where clubs are present, and to be honest, I've taken advantage of those myself, as here in the Twin Cities, we do have several futsal pitches that have been put in thanks to their connection with the Loons, with the aim to bring soccer to more underprivileged communities and really grow the game in these communities. And this does seem like a very genuine, authentic effort to do this. The event was also super diverse and welcoming, as there's tons of people from different backgrounds all around the community there. At a lot of these gala-type showcases, it's really easy to feel underdressed or out of place, but this just wasn't the case there. It was so accepting and welcoming and inviting to anyone. And it really felt like a safe space with a lot of open-minded individuals, which was pretty refreshing for a change. However, thankfully, the main man himself, Don Garber, the MLS commissioner, was not present because he was feeling under the weather. But I didn't necessarily mind not having to hear from him. Later that night was the skills challenge, and we went to the stadium to get our official media badges. Felt super special for this actually. And I've been in lower.com field before, and I do have a full stadium review of it here on my channel, and it's also going to be linked down below in the description. It's a pretty sweet stadium, but my biggest complaint then, and still remains now, is that there is zero air circulation. Because it's closed in and more of a European style stadium, the air just sits in there and it feels so hot and muggy. And this was definitely the case throughout the All-Star week. The whole security situation was kind of a mess, and no one really knew where to go, where we could go, where we couldn't go. And it's kind of a frustrating situation all over, but eventually we did make it pitch side. Overall, the skills challenge was a little bit boring in my personal opinion. They did have some cool things. The goalie wars were pretty cool. Some of the contests were cool. I really enjoyed the shooting accuracy test the most, but overall, there just wasn't a lot happening, and the stadium wasn't very full for it. The next day, I got to listen to a panel discussion with 3 former soccer players, 2 of which being MLS players. Actually, I was kind of working during it. But it was really interesting to hear them talk about the game at a very grassroots level while they're all tied to the MLS. To me, grassroots and MLS couldn't get more apart. But just listen to the response when someone asks a question about the failures of the US men's national team.
Or if that's a byproduct of these kids have always been the best, they've always been told they're the best, so they're used to being the best. They're at some of the larger clubs. If they're at a different club where they're the captain or they're the man, so to speak, where they're being forced to really bring the whole team up. So when they come and play as with the national team together, and they're all used to that, then that's a different story. And where we have gotten so quickly has been tremendous. We absolutely have some issues at the grassroots level with developing players on both the men's and the women's side. Head coach of the men's and women's national teams, or any of our national teams, are only going to be as good as what all of our collective coaches do early.
That was Dante Washington there, who currently works for the Columbus Crew, and it was really cool to hear some of the things that I think and feel being said by someone who is with an MLS club, kind of showing that there are 2 sides of the coin. You can support local soccer and also support the MLS. The game itself was super fun. It was full of passion, extremely loud in the stadium, even with a lot of empty seats. The introduction of Don Garber, met with some of the loudest boos I've ever heard, was super reassuring that MLS fans are in tune with things and aren't just blinded by the light that is the glitz and glory of the top league. Or maybe they just booed the commissioner, because that's what we do with every sport in the United States. But in comparison, the roar that we heard for the Haslam family, Jim and T. Haslam being the owner of the Cleveland Browns and savior of the Columbus Crew, was absolutely electrifying. All-Star games are normally just throwaway games in my opinion. I mean, just look at the NFL Pro Bowl, for example. They stopped actually playing a game and just play flag football, which is pretty silly. But this was actually something more. Since it was the All-Stars from the MLS versus the All-Stars from Liga MX in Mexico, it was kind of a contest between, the best of the US sides and the best of the Mexican sides, kind of re-sparking that US-Mexico rivalry to say, hey, whose league's actually better here? And I think a lot of this footage speaks for itself for the atmosphere. At halftime, I even got to go on the pitch with the hometown heroes, which was pretty sick. So, in conclusion, did this change my opinion of the MLS? Well, in short, not really. I'm not going to be hopping on the MLS trend train anytime soon. Definitely won't find me supporting any messy gear anytime soon, but I do have a little bit more respect for the league itself. And I know I should probably check out a Loons game here in town and take back a little bit of my hatred for the league, since they are doing some great things in the community. And the fans themselves are a lot more educated and passionate than I normally give them credit for. Well, apart from all the people in Messi jerseys. You know, I had a little game going with myself that, hypothetically, every time I see someone in a Messi jersey, take a shot. I would have died. But overall, it was a fun experience to be a part of. I'm glad I was able to do it, and I need to give credit where credit is due. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see many more videos about going to different stadiums all around North America. And if you're so inclined, cop yourself one of these sweet hats. Love it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon with another video. Thanks. Bye.